There's one necro build everyone forget about. John didn't. He absolutely obliterates a level 199 pit boss in a couple of seconds with the Bone Spirit. And we all know Bone Spirit can be quite iffy with the cooldown and everything, but he made it work. And I'll have my version of this build for you right now. We'll begin with Reap into Enhanced Reap and then also Acolyte's Reap to get the corpses like this, because we're not going to be using the corpses with Hood Flash. And there's a super interesting thing about core skills right now, because all your skills down here in your fourth tree, and that goes for every class, by the way, these are core skills now. So this is Macabre Bone Core. And if you have something that hires the level of your core skills, well, that also applies to Bone Spirit later on. We're not using a core skill itself. This is going to be a Bone Spirit spam together with Reap for continuous damage reduction. 1 point into Blood Mist to get the Enhanced Blood Mist and Ghastly Blood Mist. We'll leave the Spiked Armor open right now. If you might need it in the end game, 1 or 2 points could be nice for another 10% armor boost to reach that 9,232 armor cap. No points into Grim Harvest or Fueled by Death, because we're not interacting that much with corpses. We're spamming Bone Spirit with 0 cooldown. 3 points to damage to close and damage reduction from close, because we're going to stand right next to the boss to make the, well, distance for Bone Spirit the lowest. Death Approach for movement speed, amplified damage because it's easy, and then even more cooldown reduction for our Bone Storm that is always available. Then Corpse Tendrils, pulling things together and making things vulnerable. Yes, we're going to go for Bone Spirit, as many points as possible with the cooldown reduction if we crit. And yes, we're going to have to bring the crit to 100%. And then lastly, Bone Spirit has an additional 10% crit chance because we need that. And this is the first time ever I'll actually put all the points in Serration, so we really can get this crit chance up. Serration gives you 1% for every 30 essence you have, and we'll run around with, I think, around 250 to almost 300 essence later on. Yeah, you notice bonus crit chance like crazy. Maximum points into Compound Fracture for the bonus bone skill damage. Then we're going to max out the vulnerable. And this is interesting. Every 100 essence you spend reduces the cooldown of your bone skills by 0.5 seconds. The plan here is with rapid ossification to reduce the cooldown of Bone Storm, that we don't have to play the Litless Wall, because usually you would play the Litless Wall together with a Bone Storm, but for maximum Bone Spirit damage, you'll need a two-handed weapon. I know that goes against every belief in the Necromancer to play a two-handed weapon, but again, rapid ossification, you spend 100 essence, you get a 1.5 second cooldown reduction. And if we spam the Bone Spirit later, and yes, we'll be able to spam the Bone Spirit later, we continuously burn through our essence to always have the Bone Storm cooldown up for a permanent critical strike chance increase. And that's a 20 and a 10% already. We'll get 30% critical strike chance bonus. And we now cast with 150 essence. That's 5 times this. That's another 5% crit bonus. So we're at 35% crit. And this one here, currently 12% attack speed, will provide 12% critical strike chance. So we're at 47% critical strike chance without a single point of dex, without a single point of critical strike chance on our gear. Boost the standalone with 1 point, and then the Memento Mori into Ossified Essence for the absolute bonus super cast, because Ossified Essence is more damage for more essence up in cast. Right now, there's only 1 point in standalone for the 6% damage reduction. We could personally think about yoinking points out of Death Embrace. Now, this does 6% more damage and 12% damage reduction. But if I would yoink 2 points out, I have 18% damage reduction and still a 2% damage boost. That 2% damage boost might as well go over to Spiked Armor, that you're actually getting more armor if you need to. You could reduce the critical strike chance here if you do have already enough critical strike chance for more damage reduction. So technically, I would put most points into Inspiring Leader for the critical strike chance, but if you manage to get enough with your equipment, that's not needed anymore. Paragon board is going to be brilliant for this, but first, aspects and skills. Now, our biggest friend here will be the Shattered Spirit aspect. Casting Bone Spirit launches 18 splinters in all directions, dealing 400% increased damage and generating 6 essence per hit. This is essentially going to allow us to spam Bone Spirit with 0 cooldown while still continuously restoring essence. Just to give you a feeling for what this looks like, this is my absolute unoptimized Season 3 Bone Spirit. We're essentially going to be spamming Reap to make the corpses, which also allows us to, by the way, go for the Grasping Veins for the bonus crit chance, but you should reach 100% crit chance without that. Then you're going to have to curse your opponent, activate your Bone Storm, and then boom, 0 cooldown Bone Spirit. Now, why is my essence not completely filling up? Well, because I'm missing out on the resource generation tempering, but you notice the Bone Spirit has a complete non-existent cooldown. I can spam it away to reduce the cooldown here on the Bone Storm as well. I only have 135 essence because I haven't done my Paragon yet. Yes, my Paragon is completely empty, but that's how the spam actually works. It is a reasonable thing, and we're going to add tempering on top of that. And let me tell you about the rest of the gear and tempering. First one of your rings is going to get the Shattered Spirit aspect, and here it already begins. You can go for the tempering on rings for resource generation, which means when you're actually getting resource back, every point of resource you're getting back from these splinters is then multiplied by 20-30% to really refill your essence like crazy. Alternative, there's one absolutely mental tempering, and that is called Macabre Skills Restore Primary Resource. Yeah, so whenever you use a Macabre skill, you get the Swelling Curse mana back, plus this should be 30-40 essence back, or simply casting your skill. You pair this with Resource Generation roll, or just simply take 2 of those. You can actually go for Bone Damage, Bone Critical Strike chance, Bone Critical Strike damage, and even, yes, Bone Spirit damage. And if you're lacking on the cooldown, if you're not getting your Bone Spirit on this rapid fire cast, there's even the temper for the cooldown reduction. Yes, like the Bone Spirit has everything just ready for itself to perfectly work. The best usually is Bone Critical Strike chance, because that multiplies up with your aspect of the Grasping Veins pretty much, because Grasping Veins still gives you this insane damage bonus, and that then with the crazy damage that Bone Spirit anyways is dealing is going to be incredible. And your amulets can have ranks to all Macabre skills, which interestingly enough also boosts your Blood Mist cooldown reduction, because, well, it's a Macabre skill too, as the Bone Spirit itself is. Oh, and that Bone Spirit tempering, yep, that's possible on your amulet as well. Choose which one you need in this case if you do the cooldown reduction or even more Bone Critical Strike chance. Now I want to know something cool about Gloves core skills. It can give you ranks to core skills. Remember, Bone Spirit is a core skill now. That's plus 4 ranks from your gloves, plus 4 ranks from your armor with Macabre skills, and then plus 4 ranks on your boots. So we got 4 ranks here, 4, 8, 12, 16 bonus ranks on the Bone Spirit. And that means every single bonus rank is another 8% damage multiplier here from 104 to 112. So we're getting another 16 bonus ranks times 8%. And that whole damage base multiplier then times the 4% per point of essence. And yes, your helmet can have maximum resource for more essence, and your amulet can have that one as well. So you actually boost up your maximum amount of essence, and you then have this damage multiplier, multiply even more, multiply, apply. Now on our weapon, we would play Ossified, which gives us another 40% critical strike damage multiplier. And if we play this on a 200 weapon, it's another 80% critical strike damage multiplier on our bonus 30% we're getting from our golem anyways, as we sacrifice the golem for critical strike damage. Plus then the Grasping Veins, it's just going off the charts. And by the way, that bone critical strike damage that we're having, right? It can go up to 200% plus. Again, most important on your temperings though is, like the glove, that you need to get 100% critical strike chance with the Bone Spirit without actually the Grasping Veins. Because if you rely on the Grasping Veins, it gets inconsistent. So you have to have the 51.4% bonus here already with rings having critical strike chance on. And these critical strike chance rolls are low because obviously we're playing Season 4 where every stat is higher. Currently, I even do have the Book of the Dead sacrifice for more critical strike chance to boost this out. And don't forget to add the bonus 10% here and the bonus 20% from your Bone Storm. So that's another 30% in my case, bringing me up to a full of 81%, which would be then 100% with the Grasping Veins, but that's not enough. So I would temper probably Bone Critical Strike chance here with a resource generation, and then I would temper Bone Critical Strike chance on my gloves as well to get that higher. If I'm missing it, you could technically go for the Swelling Curse for another 25%, but you'd rather have another damage multiplier instead of having Swelling Curse going on. Whereas Swelling Curse, though, is the easy solution because it's either Swelling Curse on your gloves, or you could, for example, on your second ring, choose to play the Conceited aspect, which gives you a 25% damage boost while you have Barrier active. Because we're going to play Bone Storm. We're going to reduce the Bone Storm's cooldown like crazy, and then on our chest, we can literally play Shielding Storm. So we have a constant barrier generation on that soaks up full as we're standing to the boss, with the Conceited aspect giving us the bonus. And if you do want your Bone Storm to never run out, there's on your weapon a chance to temper into Bone Storm Duration, which enhances the duration tremendously. And here's the kicker: if we're now thinking about the Osseous scale, Bone Storm consumes up to 8 corpses to increase its duration by another 5 to 10 seconds. We essentially have Bone Storm permanently up, with not only the duration increase on the tempering. No, don't forget that we're continuously using Reeb, which provides us another 15% damage reduction. So we're essentially standing at the boss, 20% damage reduction from the Bone Storm, 15% from the Reeb, with another 18% from Standalone, followed up by Death Embrace with the next 12% damage reduction, maximum armored out with a new armor system, just standing there not dying, while you're essentially then just spamming Bone Spirits, Bone Spirits, Bone Spirit. Oh, did I forget another 20% damage reduction from Decrepify? Boom. And we didn't even touch on the Paragon board yet. For the pans, we could play T-Bolt's Will. T-Bolt's Will is nerfed though, so instead of now providing a 40% damage boost, it's only 20% damage. But whenever we become unstoppable, and that would be just simply going into the Blood Mist or dashing, for example, with a Metamorphosis, we're going to be getting the 50 essence back. And that 50 essence back allows us to spam even more. Plus T-Bolt's Will's damage reduction from close enemies as we're sitting close to the boss, and maximum resource plus. Maximum resource, every point is 4% more damage on our Bone Spirit. That kind of works perfect, right? And for the helmet, this is the first time I'll say it, it would be the perfect choice to have the Harlequin crest for more ranks into Bone Spirit. But you're most likely not going to have the Harlequin crest, but alternatively, even go for the Godslayer crown, as that gives you cooldown reduction to make your Bone Spirit and Bone Storms happen more, and still gives you that 60% damage multiplier for 3 seconds, and 3 seconds is all you need versus the boss. Otherwise, there is the aspect of the hardened bones on the helmet, which is another 20% damage reduction to you and your minions, but it's also to you, so you actually don't you don't need minions for this. Just 20% damage reduction. And then you can just slam on bonus critical strike damage on your gear, Ruby up for more life, and jewelry with the diamonds if needed, or skulls if you need the bonus armor. For the sacrifices, I would go for the Skeletal Warriors for the bonus resistance. If not, you're hitting the resistance cap already with the new diamonds and what we have on the Paragon board, because then you could actually boost your critical strike chance easily by another 5%, and with the sacrifice, it's actually 8%. On the mage sacrifice, I would probably go for the vulnerable damage over the essence. That being said, you could also take more essence. 15 more essence is another every point 4% more damage, more essence, more damage. Now, you will not ever produce fully back to 100% as you're spamming, and therefore the vulnerable is a bit more consistent than the more essence. Skill bar looking Bone Spirit into Corpse Tendrils with the Reeb on Blood Mist with the Curse, and then lastly, Bone Storm. Just zooming through a dungeon, exploding everything. For the Paragon board, you're going to be trying to tap into a lot of intelligence nodes to increase your max damage. We're going to take the resistances that we don't have to take the 20 plus resistance. And the first one we're going to be putting in is Sacrificial. Sacrificial gives us 150% to the magic nodes, so we can get more armor. And we can get way more damage. Armor damage, really nice. And it activates quite simple as you're just going through the board. Now, upwards into Bone Graft, not Flesh Eater, because we're once in a while actually not using corpses like crazy. So we're going to completely ignore that one. But the Bone Graft board is full of amazing shiznit. And here we want the maximum essence bonus, maximum essence, maximum essence, maximum essence, maximum essence. You could take the essence on kill if you want to, but you already do have the 2 essence on kill here. That would just be 4 essence on kill bonus. You're fine. And then we can go into the Bone critical strike damage, which gets increased tremendously. We're moving to the right side, and we're going to be taking more bone critical strike damage. And yes, we'll also increase hitting enemy with bone skills, increases your maximum damage by 1% and your maximum essence by 2 for 8 seconds, up to 16 maximum essence, and 8% more damage multiplicative. And then back here, you have two choices. We could either try to boost the bone skill damage even higher, or you could focus on the dexterity nodes. This is actually two valid ways to go for, because you do have the corporal glyph that you really do want for the bonus to all magic nodes. And that's an interesting one to take here, because we're going to have to leave the board anyways, right? We want to take the bone skill damage, and this would give us more bone skill damage, more bone skill damage, more bone skill damage. And if I put 3 more points here, it would boost our resistance to all elements, that we again don't have to take these 20% plus and rather go for more critical strike chance to then be able to choose another tempering. And this is already at 35 intelligence points. Can easily zoom out with this, right? We get the full package going on by simply putting 1 more point here. That would bring me to the question if I could potentially reduce this point, go 3 point. Now that would be more efficient. Just thinking about is there a way to enter this a bit smarter? But no, I have to enter it this way. We're going to ignore the bonus life up here. That shouldn't be needed. Go through the bloodbath board, because the bloodbath board is the perfect dexterity board. Turn that 2 times. Since you're going to enter from this side for dex, intelligence, dex. Then we're going to put in the essence glyph. Essence glyph is important for even more critical strike damage, because this one gives us critical strike damage max and the 22% multiplier. And we could take here even more critical strike damage, move out of the way for critical strike damage. That's 44. If you want to, you can max this out for 49, but we'll see if we have enough points left to really pull this completely through. Now we're going down here into the Flesh Eater board. Yes, Flesh Eater, but we're not actually going to take the Flesh Eater. We're only in here for your glyph. Yes, we don't care about anything else. That's not completely true. I might have lied to you. We do care for at least yoinking away the critical strike damage and critical strike damage here, because that's another 15-30% critical strike damage bonus. Since we multiply everything up, it's insane. Now, what we do want here is the damage versus elites. So we can take 1 damage to elites point, then go up intelligence, dexterity, boom. We're going to take the amplify glyph to boost our damage versus elites, and damage versus elites. That would give us 20 points. Then we can take an intelligence here, boost our resistance to all elements even further. And I think with all of this, what we have did already, we should be able to really have our resistance to all elements so far up that we don't need the 20%. Currently, I don't have a single diamond in, and we're looking at almost fully resistanced out. But we have 73 points left, and we only have 4 glyphs activated. Can't have that, right? Need more glyphs. Now, which board could you leave the easiest? Can't leave this one. We could leave this one with a couple of points, but I think they're on the right side. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Doesn't actually get better. Like, we can just go out there. Then we need to go into the Scent of Death board, and the Scent of Death board has all the critical strike you could imagine, and that's why we're going to go in here, because it gives you critical strike chance, right? Then it gets us bonus damage reduction, or bonus damage if there's no corpses, and even more critical strike again. So crit. And what we want right now is the territorial glyph. By taking this armor, then dex, boom, go back in. And we're going to be taking territorial, because that's bonus damage to close enemies, but also another 10% damage reduction, just keeping us super healthy. You can now leave the board on top with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or down here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So both works in both directions. And we're leaving into the, we need a dex board, something that, I think it's Cult Leader, because Cult Leader, surprisingly, is the board that has the most dexterity, just straight up to take. See, on this path, we can go in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you can essentially put in the exploit glyph for the bonus to vulnerable damage. And we can just activate this very easy up here. Boop. That would be exploit also. So vulnerable damage on top as well. Not sure if it would be better if I go 1, 2, 3 in here and then just take these. I mean, we're kind of fine. Like, I think both ways in kind of works. So we even have 9 points left, which could be enough to activate another glyph if I save myself some points. I mean, I can go with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out again. So we can go in and out at the same time. And we could move into the board with the closest glyph. I mean, this one is too far away. Then we got Wither. Wither is relatively close, but also not easy to reach. Hulking Monstrosity. I mean, technically you're straight up there. And there's a bunch of intelligence. So we could try to get another glyph. But for that, we would really have to compromise and yoink like a lot of points out of everything. We're using the sacrificial to get our armor a bit higher and boost this. So if you want to compromise, if we would like to pull out these points here because you're saying, you know what, it's not worth it to boost this. It's not worth to boost the armor. That's another 7 points left over. Then we could say, well, we got 49. So these 2 points might not be worth it. That's already 9 points left over, right? Allowing us to go in here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now we get already 5, 10, 15 intelligence taken if we wanted to go for that. And we could be trying to activate, for example, control, alternative imbiber for damage while healthy. If we just be looking for taking willpower nodes because they're easier to take. And they're also unconditional. So we need another 5, 5, 5, 5, 1 point, and then 2 more points. So 3 points added somewhere to get an imbiber glyph going too. But you do notice that we have to do quite some compromise to get that off. It would be simple to yoink away resistance to all elements. That would be point number 1. Then you could technically just shortcut it here and take these 3 points out. That would essentially reduce our critical strike damage by 7.5%. And I could go for 1, 2, 3 to essentially activate Imbiber. And I lied to you. I would actually do need another 2 points to truly activate it. So that's a real bummer. Because these points would, again, cut into our critical strike damage and even our bone critical strike damage. Now, you could say this is actually worth it because we're getting another 53.5% damage while healthy, which kind of applies to everything and multiplies then in the end up with the critical strikes as well. If it's worth it, we'll do have to test, but this is a nice framework to get a lot out and to then be able to essentially go for more resistance like this. But you do see if I would now just say, okay, resistance to all elements done if I put 3 diamonds in. But if the 3 diamonds over resistance me now because they actually buffed the diamonds, I could then, instead of yoinking it out of the critical strike, I could take away the resistance here. If that is not needed, that makes life way easier. Which brings you to the choice of what if I just go for the sacrifice to resistance, because that would then save me all these Paragon points, right? I could just straight away take like 4 Paragon points here away, 3 Paragon points there away, and we're good to go to then spend them differently. Ladies and gentlemen, what do you think? Bone Spirit Bonanza galore. Did you like it? Is it something you're interested in? If you rather are looking for summoners though now, ba-bam, there's 2 for you to try out. All builds are fantastic. This is more endgame than it actually is leveling though.